Today we're going to talk about the one thing in your life that could change it tremendously.
Tremendously.
Hello everybody, my name is Barry Horvath and this is Moving Forward TV with your local market update.
And I am DeLynn Gaston. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a guest today. Yay!
Already?
We always love when we have guests because they know something more than we do.
Yeah, we'd like to,
and we learn.
We do learn a lot. And today we have a very special guest, but we're not going to talk about him. Let's talk about us for a while.
Well, no, he's tired of hearing about us because that's all we've been talking about is us.
All right, so we have Mr. Michael Mergner.
Mergner, yes, sir.
And he's from Alpha Credit Recovery.
That is
Which
correct.
is the one thing that can change your life tremendously.
I know, we were going to keep you hanging on.
Tremendously.
We were going to keep you waiting on that, but now, since Michael is with us, we're just going to go ahead and let the cat out of the bag. So, Michael, you know what? We talk about credit all the time because, you know, we're in the mortgage industry, and people always say, well, the first question, believe it or not, when they ask us as lender, you know, is guess what? What's your rate?
Yeah.
And we're looking at them and we're like, and then we go, what's your score?
Yeah.
And we go, what's your loan size? And where's the property located? So, you know, the credit is a big part of what their rate is going to be.
Correct.
Right.
And it not only affects their mortgage rate, but now in today's world, we use credit to check everything.
You need credit for everything. I mean, from your car to your insurance, employment. It's impossible to survive in America without credit, without good credit.
Yes.
On top of that.
Yes.
A lot of opportunities are being missed by not taking care of yourself and your credit.
So your auto insurance can be much higher. Your mortgage payment can be much higher.
Correct.
Your employment situation could be in jeopardy, or you won't get hired because they do that as part of a background check.
Correct. A lot of financial institutions or military clearance, they require a good credit to move
Because that
forward.
makes you a better person?
No,
what's the thinking?
not a better person. There's a lot of confusion when it comes to credit, and the way I like to look at it is all it is a snapshot at the time and moment when your credit score is generated of what kind of risk you are.
Okay.
The higher your score, the lower your risk.
Okay.
The lower your score, the higher risk you are. And there's different credit scoring models. There's
Right.
over 28
28?
just with FICO.
Wow.
Just with FICO.
Wow.
Correct.
All right, so here's a question. I didn't ask you this, but maybe you know the answer, maybe you don't.
I would hope so.
I was told that if you put groceries on a credit card, that could actually be evaluated as a higher credit risk situation, meaning
Not at
like,
all.
No, not anymore, or
No,
not any less? Or
Not ever, no.
No.
It doesn't matter if you buy gasoline or pay your bills. What matters is how much you're using based on how much you have available.
Okay, so
Like
is there,
those-
That's good though, because I know a lot of people who do that to get the points for like airline tickets or whatever it is. They'll pay like all their electric bill, their cable bill, their cell phone bill. They'll pay everything on a credit card and then pay it off at the end of the month.
Funny that you mentioned that. I don't pay for Christmas. All year long, I use my credit cards.
Really?
I have 3 that I like the most because of the points, and I don't touch my cashback rewards. Might be $600, might be $1,200, but at the end of the year, I cash them in. And obviously, in order to do that, you have to pay your balances off every
Right,
month.
right.
So you're not paying an interest. But yeah, I don't pay for Christmas. Whatever my budget is that year, it's based off of my points.
Wow,
right.
that's pretty good.
all right, so a lot of misconceptions out there about
Yes.
credit then. So
And
let's,
that's where Michael and I
all
had
right.
started talking.
So tell me this. Tiers, you said available balance. Okay. $1,000 available balance.
Correct.
Okay. If they're at 750 or more, is that a threshold where the score could drop?
So the general rule of thumb that you will, if you do some research online or talk to friends and family members.
Or
most
just call Michael.
Or call me. Yeah. Well,
I just like
well,
it
I'm not the
'cause you're-
general rule of thumb. I'm the exceptions, and my
Yeah.
clients are
You're
exceptional.
the general rule of alpha credit recovery.
That's right.
All
That's
got
right.
it.
But 30% or less is what we keep on hearing. So if you
The
have
sweet
1,000,
spot.
correct. If you have $1,000 available, that's your credit limit. Try to use less than 30%. But in fact, especially when it comes to the mortgage process, if you keep your balances between 1 and 10% is where 1 and 9% to be exact, but
Really?
that's where you gain the most amount of points. And
Okay.
it is utilization is what we're speaking about. So
Okay.
how much you have available based
Okay.
on how much you're using based on how much you have available is so important. Where you can have an absolutely flawless credit, 850. You've paid your mortgage on time, car payments, all of that's beautiful. Max out your credit cards and you're under 700,
Just like that.
just like that.
But what if you?
Over 100 points.
What if you?
165 it's worth actually.
Let's use that same example, and maybe. What if you pay it off every month and you max it out?
So there's.
Great question.
That's a very good question. Where it gets a little bit confusing for a lot of my clients when I first start talking with them, or anybody I come across, is they'll use their card fully and then
Right.
pay their balance off thinking that they're doing the right thing, they're not paying interest. But actually what gets generated on the statement date is what gets reported to the credit bureau.
Okay.
So 21 days before your due date is when your statement gets generated, and you can look that up on your statement where
Okay.
your bill goes from the 3rd to the 4th every month.
Okay.
You know that that's your billing cycle. That's what will generate the statement, and that's
Okay.
what we'll report to the credit bureaus.
I see. Okay.
So, and that could be different times for everything. So
Different cards, different times.
Right. Your, MasterCard might be on the 5th of the month, and then your American Express on the 27th of the month, and that kind of thing. So there's a good chance that when your credit gets pulled or reported, it's going to be different.
Correct.
Even
It
if you
happens
do
all the
pay it
time.
off.
100%.
Interesting.
Interesting. All
Very
right. So now things.
It
are-
could
If you want
potentially
to
look-
avoid playing the system and playing the game, it takes time to have credit cards with high limits. It doesn't happen overnight. I mean, when my credit was destroyed about 5-6 years ago, and that's what got me into this industry, I started with a $200 secured card.
Yeah.
Right now,
Is that a good way for people to get
get back
reestablished
in the
in
game?
credit?
absolutely correct.
Okay. Is
Yeah,
there-
you still
is-
have to be careful,
Right.
Because there's cards that have annual fees or they never graduate from secured to unsecured.
Right. Is there any you could suggest for
For
our
people?
viewers that you know of? That
I
work?
keep on saying that Capital One needs to start paying me for their plugs.
Right.
But,
They're not paying you anymore.
no, they never
That's
started.
the one I tell people too, because they're on TV. They advertise on TV, so that's what I say.
I like that card. It is a really good card.
So if they were destroyed, had bankruptcy, reestablishing credit, that's a good way to go. A secure card, maybe Capital One is one
Correct.
to look
Two
at.
to three cards to start off with.
Okay.
FICO likes to see 2 to 3 cards in general, but 1
Okay.
to 2 to start off is good. The reason I like Capital One is because it does graduate and it
Okay.
gives your credit limit increase, so you're not tying up your money for forever.
Okay.
And you want to keep those accounts open for as long as possible.
So how do those secure cards work? You give them $250, they give you a credit line of $250. Is that
Yeah, so Capital One, as an example, it's based on your credit. They actually might give you a lower deposit,
Okay.
50, 150, or 200.
Okay.
Most folks have to pay the 200.
okay?
And you use it just as a regular credit card, so still stay below the 30%.
Okay.
Make your payments on time,
Right.
and that's showing responsibility.
Okay.
And then at some point, you get your $200 back from them? Like if you
Yeah,
sent
so-
$200 to them?
Correct, if it graduates.
Okay.
So I like to give my
I like
client.
the word if.
When?
For some people, it's if.
I'm sure.
But I like to give my clients options that keep the most amount of money in their pocket,
Right,
because they
right.
can go to their local bank and get a secured card. I had a client that went to the local bank, PNC, and they,
Ooh, we don't mention individual banks online, do we?
That's okay.
All right. Hey, hang on. Hold your thought. We're going to talk more about individual banks and who not to go to after this. We'll be right back. Hello, everybody. We're back again. We're here with Michael Mergner
Thank you.
with the Alpha Credit
He keeps
Recovery.
mispronouncing
So
that.
I had to say his name 31 times during the break to make sure I got it right this time because we don't want to mess that up. You know what's great about our show? It's unscripted. We speak from the heart. That means we screw up, including your name. So welcome to the show.
I'm sure you love me.
Yeah.
We're good.
I already told him in the beginning, so don't expect us to say cut and try that again. No, that doesn't happen on our show.
there's no cuts.
We make fun. We just make fun of each other if we mess up.
Yeah, it's all good. So Michael Mergner.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Now
sir.
that I have your
So
name
let's
straight.
talk about, Michael was telling us about the difference between a
Can I-
credit file and a
Excuse
credit
me a
score.
second. Could you not tip in your chair?
I know,
like that?
I'm like having fun
Because
rocking here. Are you
This is
thinking that
not
I'm
a
going to
rocket
go?
chair. Yeah, because listen,
Okay, fine.
I know you don't think they can see it on TV, but they can. They see you rocking in the chair. This is not a rocking chair, just so you folks know. It is supposed to be flat on the floor.
All
It's a
right, all right, all
rounded
right, all right.
thing on the bottom. So we yell at children for that. Now, but now let's get back to Michael Mergner over here with the credit, okay? All right. Anyway, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Credit file and credit score, you were
Yes.
saying, right? Okay, so let's talk about that.
So
There's a difference?
there is a difference.
Ooh.
Your credit score, the way I like to explain it to my clients is a credit score will get you in the door, but a credit file will get you approved. So you can have a good credit score, but have an outstanding debt of $20,000,
You're right.
and you still won't get qualified for the mortgage. So it is important for a professional to look over your credit file. When I work with my clients, I don't even care about the credit score.
Yeah.
What we focus on is the file, make sure the foundation is set properly, and then the score will just come automatically as long as we set the right expectations.
Yeah.
So most of the people that you're talking to have had like a credit issue or something happened in their lives and they're trying to recover, I would imagine.
Correct.
So what are some of the typical common things that you see that are inaccurately done on the credit report that you know pretty much you can, you know what, this is how we're gonna I've seen this before, we're gonna take care of it.
Well, anything that's not accurate, timely, or verifiable has to go. That's the law. The law protects all of us.
What is that? Say that again.
Inaccurate,
Inaccurate.
not timely, or not verifiable.
Okay.
So inaccurate, we spoke previously about collection accounts.
Okay.
Not going to name any names because they'll come after me, but I see quite often.
Not PNC Bank.
No, we love PNC.
There you go.
Their cards just don't graduate. But I've seen plenty times where collections will, for example, report 120 days late. Well, it's not 120 days late, it's already in collection status. They're not the original creditor. That in itself is a violation.
Right, they're not allowed to say that you're late, right? Because
Correct.
you never had an obligation to pay them.
Correct.
Your obligation was with, Citibank or whoever it might have been.
Correct,
Okay.
100%. So that's an example of something being inaccurate. Not timely, 7 years for regular accounts. If it's reporting after that period, it needs to go.
Even though, what if it starts out as one company and then someone else, another collection agency buys it? Does the timeline start over?
It does not, no. There's,
But that doesn't mean
So
that's
that's
the
another
way. Because
myth.
I've seen people where collections get sold and they keep on selling them, they go on for years and years. And, the small little debt they had that they owed,
well, I mean,
and it keeps
when
going bigger and bigger and bigger. And
and that's a violation in itself.
Okay.
They're supposed to report the accurate date, and it's 7 years from the original first date of delinquency
Okay.
when the negative item should
so
come up.
not from when the account opens, but from the date of the original delinquency.
Correct.
It's supposed to fall off in 7 years, meaning it just goes away. It just disappears from your your report.
It disappears. Now, that does not alleviate anybody from their actual obligation to the debt.
Okay.
That debt is still owed there. So if it's a cell phone company and 7 years went by and that debt never got paid and it's off the credit report, if you were to go to that cell phone company, for example, they will not give you service until you pay that debt, most likely.
So they're
So-
still keeping it on their books. It's just not on the credit report.
Correct.
And
So
they might
credit and
share
debt are two
data
separate
with
things.
each other.
Probably do.
Like
They probably do.
Banks do that now when you have an outstanding balance on an account where you were overdrawn and you go to another bank to open it. They have a shared service to where
Correct.
they can see and they won't
Check
let you open a
systems.
balance. Yep.
So let me ask this question. So assuming they have this debt that was on there, can, cell phone or whatever it is, and at the end of 7 years, it's going to drop off your credit, can they at that point turn around and turn it into a judgment?
No. So
Okay.
the statute of limitation in Florida for written contracts is 5 years. So what that means is from the first date of delinquency, whoever the creditor is or collection company acting on behalf of the creditor, they have 5 years to follow suit. If they don't do anything within that time frame, then legally they cannot collect on a debt. It's still on a credit report for 2 more years, but they cannot collect on that debt. They can't take you to court and get a judgment.
So they have 5 years. So is that
And
true on a mortgage too?
I was just going to say, does it make a difference what type of debt it is? A credit card, a car loan, a
Any kind of debt
mortgage?
except student
So
loans.
that's where I've
or
heard.
taxes.
I've heard people, and I know somebody personally, and they watch our show, so we won't mention any names, but they didn't pay their mortgage for some time. The lender never filed a foreclosure, and they still have the house, and it's been years and years and years.
And they've
years.
never made a mortgage payment?
Nope.
But the lien is still on the
The
house?
lien's still
They
there.
can't sell it.
So
Yeah,
they can't sell it?
but
Free living is good
yeah,
living.
Yeah. I mean,
Wow.
and I think they came to a point where they just couldn't even file the foreclosure to try to collect the debt. Is that under that same statute of limitations? Do you know?
I don't have an exact answer. It's a little bit out of my reach. But the statute of limitation, it has to do with being able to
5
collect the
years.
debt, not
Right.
the actual property
Right.
in
So
itself.
there's a lien there, so they can't do anything with it. They
Right.
probably made the lien big and fat with all the late fees.
One
through the
thing,
years.
one thing I did want to mention, so there's no confusion. If the 5 years, you can reset actually the 5-year statute of limitation by admitting to the debt.
Ah.
And-
how do you admit to the debt?
So, for example, you enter a repayment program, and life happens, you lose your job, and you made payments for a year. They're supposed to be for 3 years or whatnot. That clock starts ticking again.
Because you started paying them, so you agreed that you own the debt.
They're very good. They record all phone calls. If you call and make if you admit to the debt and they have a recording of that, you can potentially renew the statute of limitation again. So
Wow.
you have to be careful when you're dealing with
Really
collection
interesting.
companies.
So the other thing that I wanted to ask about, because I had heard this too, and I'm not sure if it's true or not, that after a certain period, and maybe it is the 7 years, I don't know, they can still keep on trying to collect from you, but there's a little line down at the bottom of the collection letter that says this will not affect your credit.
Correct.
So,
And then it's a matter of sending a cease and desist letter, and legally they cannot
okay,
contact
so
you
they can
anymore.
keep on contacting you and everything else. They just can't
Now
report
they're-
it to your credit.
They can't report it to the credit at that point. They cannot legally try to extract money from you. They're bottom feeders at that point. I mean, keep in mind, they're buying it for pennies on the dollar.
And that's what else I was going to ask about. So that's what happens, right? They buy it for pennies.
Correct. The older
And-
the debt, the cheaper and that's where you see the sale from one collection company to the next, because one couldn't collect. They'll recoup some of their money, and maybe they pay 12 cents on the dollar. The next one will buy it for 6 cents on the dollar. And anything they collect is pure profit at that point.
Wow, so much stuff.
So if you're on the do not call list, does that, they're still allowed to call you, these collection companies, even though you never made an obligation with them
Do not call us is for marketing purposes.
only? Okay.
Correct.
Wow, so much to learn.
But
I know.
you can tell the creditor or collection company to stop calling you.
You can tell them?
You can tell them.
Are you going to tell them how? But first, we're going to go to break.
Okay.
Will you share that wisdom? We'll be back right after this.
Thank you.
All right, we're back with Mr. Michael Mergner with Alpha Credit.
Thank you. You got my
Recovery.
name right.
I did. It only took 3 segments. But
It's okay.
You know what makes me smarter? It's
Then what?
It's my shirt. It's my lightning shirt.
I know.
So, oh, sorry. We don't have time for that.
I know. We
That's
don't have
another
time
show.
for the lightning. We'll talk about them later. We love
Because
them.
we love them, and they're
I
going to
know,
win it
we
all.
do.
Anyway, so let's. You were talking about when collection agents call you.
Dun,
What can
dun, dun.
What should
What do they
you
say?
or should you not say, or should you answer? Should you not
Yeah.
answer?
It would
What if you happen to answer? I mean, give us your take on that.
personally, there's nothing that I would say to there's nothing that they have to say to me or any of my potential clients that is of value, I would avoid their phone calls unless you are willing to make an agreement with them to pay the debt.
Okay.
If they are harassing you, calling you early in the morning, late at night, at work, when you tell them not to call you, then you have a potential lawsuit where you're entitled to another $1,000.
Wow.
On the lawsuit thing, I wanted to stop you because you did say something interesting, something about if you try and resolve this yourself with a dispute or whatever, you waive your rights to be able to sue them, right?
Yes, if it was as easy to go through Credit Karma to file disputes, I'd work 5 hours a week instead of 50. When you dispute online, you waive your right for
We need to go
sue
into
the
credit
potential.
business so we can cut our hours.
My hours are long because I don't dispute online.
No, okay.
But anything that's free in life never truly is
Yeah.
or easy.
So you don't recommend to dispute online? That's
Do
what
not
I'm
dispute
hearing.
online. No.
Okay. All right. So you're waiving some
It-
rights.
So
by
do it
your-
in writing or get with a professional.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Do it in writing. You want a paper trail.
Okay.
When you dispute online, you
Okay.
are forced into arbitration if it comes
right.
to it.
Okay. So we talked about balances, available balances affecting your credit.
Correct.
Let's talk about, tell me real quickly, everybody thinks all these things report on credit and affect your credit. Tell me what's not reported on credit.
So it doesn't matter. Your age doesn't matter. Your sex, location,
Okay.
material status. None of that has to do with your
So
credit.
my income doesn't matter?
Nothing to do with your income.
See?
Your
I know.
$200 secured card has
Right.
just as much value as a $100,000 secured card, unsecured
Okay.
card.
Really?
It's make your payments on time. Don't overextend yourself. Keep
Okay.
those cards open for as long as possible.
Okay.
Have a mixture of accounts.
So do the three credit repositories, Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian, do they know that that's a secured card?
Some cards, secured cards, report on the credit bureau that it's secured.
That it's secured.
But it does not make a difference for the score.
Okay.
So it helps
I didn't
you
know
by having-
that.
That's
I
good
thought
to know.
I thought that it
Good to
would
know.
make a difference.
All right, so what's
Interesting.
not reported on credit?
So
Is my car insurance?
your
on
car
credit?
insurance is not reported
What
on the
about-
three major credit reporting companies.
What about my water bill?
Not your water.
My
not-
electric bill?
No cell
Your
phone.
rent?
Cable bill,
No
my cell
rent.
phone bill?
Now, there are companies out there that charge to report rent to your credit file.
Okay.
Unfortunately, like I said, 28 different FICO scoring versions, and the ones when it comes to purchasing a home, obtaining a mortgage,
Right.
does not calculate utility bills into the equation. So
Right.
don't waste your money.
Unless it's bad, right?
Correct.
So if you don't
You
pay,
bellied up on
if
an
you don't pay
electric bill.
DirecTV, they're gonna report you.
They will report you, and it will damage you. Another big myth that I hear all the time is, well, it's just a small bill. It does not matter if it's
Right.
$100 worth of debt or $10,000. The negative remarks are there, and it's a major derogatory at that point.
Here's the one that I hear all the time, if you can touch on this too. Medical bills don't count.
They absolutely do count. Correct.
You know, we hear that all the
Right,
time.
right.
Well, that's medical. That doesn't count.
Well, you know where
Yes, it does.
because FHA
Right.
doesn't make you pay them off, but it still affects your score.
Affects your score. Correct.
Yeah, and you know,
People don't
right
realize
right
that.
now, the credit is more important than ever in the lending side because people aren't aware of this, but DeLynn and I know that they're not tightening up per se, but now, you know, when debt ratios are higher, it's getting harder to get the approvals that, you know, we were able to get with a higher debt ratio. So
Which is good.
yeah, which is good. And credit score can actually, you know, that scorecard can really affect that. So people are having to go to manual underwrites to get approvals now rather than electronic. So
Now, this
credit
might
means
be
everything.
kind of a loaded question, but I wanted to ask you before they tell us in our ear that we only have a few seconds left. See, you just did. Mortgage companies, credit card companies, car loan companies, they all pull a credit report the same time, the same day, at the same instant. They're going to get different scores, are they not?
They will get different scores
Why?
because of the different scoring models.
Explain that a little bit, if you can
Give us
condense
the
that
Reader's
somehow.
Digest for-
Yeah. Because I
so
try and explain it to people, but I'm
it's
not
kind of
good
like
at
when you
explaining
post
it.
a picture on Facebook and Michael does, he, you know,
He had a better angle.
Yeah, he had a better angle. He got more likes than you. It's the algorithm, is it not?
So yes, it is the algorithm at the end of the day, and FICO is always improving their algorithm, and it's changing. I mean, in the future, in the near future, and it's already being impacted right now with Experian. Experian has Experian Boost, where you can add your utility bills, but they go into your bank account to retrieve that information. And if you can't get your credit right now, it's only going to get harder later on to the future, because it won't. Other items will matter when it comes to your credit.
Wow, so much to learn, so important. Great information.
I
great
know, I
information.
know.
All right, let's talk about what's going on in the community real quick, so we can wrap
You've been
up.
awesome.
And thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom with us. But we want to talk about our nonprofit charity here in the community, West Pasco Business Association. We have a couple upcoming events.
As usual.
We have a cornhole event coming up on
April 26th.
Thank you, DeLynn.
April 26th.
April 26th starts at 5.
I got the notes.
Yep. April 26th. We also have a Raise bus trip coming up. Mostly sold out. There's some outfield seats left on May 31st,
I
so
was gonna
come
say
on
not
out
to
for
the
that.
end of May, yep.
And you can go on WPBA.biz to learn more about that. Go online right now, check
Or
it out. Or book it.
WPBA.rocks.
Either one. Go ahead and book your spot.
Those bus trips fill up fast, so
And the
you definitely
cornhole
want-
is only $50 for 2 people.
Right.
So come on out. And then we have our next Lunch and Learn, and we talk about
all of our realtor partners out there. We'd like to invite you to our May Lunch and Learn, where we are going to have Commissioner Jack Mariano. Yay!
Yes.
Jack is always really good to give us an idea of what's going on in the community, in the county, and what's changing, and some of the things that
Sure,
are
and how it
progressive
can
things that are
affect the
happening.
values of real estate.
Right, and that's on May 14th at Carrabba's
In Port Richey.
in Port Richey. Just email me if you'd like to come.
Yep. Find
That's
us
it.
on Facebook, give us a like, and share this show. I don't know how you saw it, but get it out there. And thanks for being on the show,
Please,
Michael.
I
Thank you, Michael.
Greatly appreciate
Really
you.
do,
Thank
and-
you.
It has
Thank
been
you.
great. You're wonderful.
thank you.
Hopefully you'll come back and visit us another time.
As long as I get an
people
invite.
Yes.
People can do their own credit, but you know what? Having a professional in your own corner, you could cut your own hair, but you probably won't look like Michael's if
No,
you do.
not like this. I give free consultations to anyone, so.
All
you
right,
go.
so free
Good to
cuts.
know.
Michael's information, we have it down here below, but reach out to us if you don't. It's Alpha Credit Recovery, and he is local here in
And
our
we've
community.
got the website right up there. So thanks for being on today.
We
Thank you.
appreciate you guys watching. We are today and every day.
Moving forward.
We'll see you
go.
next week.
Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.